Hi Joey, how have you been, man?
Doing very well. And yourself?
I'm great, thank you. I'm based in Europe right now. Where are you about?
So I'm currently based in Florida, but I just got back from Prospera, Honduras.
Okay, cool. So I know your company is called Nomad Layer, and now you are a promoter of Prospera. So tell us a bit about Prospera first of all.
Yeah, sure. So Prospera is a special economic zone. Okay, so basically a zone is where they have a little bit more freedom and sovereignty over their laws, but they're still part of their host country. So Prospera is a special economic zone on the island of Roatan, which is in the Caribbean, off of the coast of mainland Honduras, which is in Central America.
Okay.
So essentially, this zone is kind of like a freedom paradise where you have low taxes, you can kind of easy business incorporation, everything is more digital. You can kind of go there and build a business very easily, because as any digital nomad, it's always kind of tough to deal with different governments and stuff like this. And so Prosper makes it a little bit easier, actually, not a little bit, a lot easier to kind of get things done, handle things that you need to handle with like let's say with any type of government, and if you want to build a business, they're very helpful and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I actually decided to base my new company, Nomad Layer, in Prospera.
Okay, great. So how big is Prospera? Have you actually lived there? Do people have to live there to get their residency?
Yeah, yeah. So I've been there before. They kind of have like two parts. They have one part that's kind of like a luxury tower,
Hmm.
about 10 floors or so, with some office space and some coffee shop and convenience store, and some bio labs as well. And it's right on the beach, with a few other buildings in that area. And then they also purchased a whole resort with a golf course, really
Hmm.
nice villas, uh, so kind of like a resort style place. But they also have a school there as well, so you can bring your family. So there are long term residents who actually live in Prospera full time.
Hmm.
And if you want to live in Prospera full time, since Prospera is part of Honduras, you would need to get a Honduran residency permit.
Okay.
But if you just want to come into the zone and just visit, basically you can get a Prospera tourist visa, or you can get an e-residency, or you can get a Prospera residency. So they have like three different types of
Yeah.
visas to actually get into the Prospera zone.
Okay, so let's talk about residency. First of all, why should people consider residency in Prospera?
Well, there's a few factors in what you want to do. So if you want to set up a business in Prospera, then you'll need to at least get an e-residency. And then if you actually want to spend significant amount of time there, then you can get a residency. And of course, if you just want to visit, you just kind of get the equivalent of like a tourist visa. So,
Or
so you
so
know,
it's maybe similar to what Estonia has done with the e-residency. Feels like
yeah, kind of, but a little bit more in person,
okay.
because if you have the tourist visa, you can actually go into the zone and visit for a short period of time. If you have the e-residency, then that's when you can like that's when you can set up a business there, interact with the local community, and actually stay in the zone for at least 30 days.
Hmm.
And then if you have the residency, you can actually stay there for the whole time. So I would say it's the Estonian model,
Yeah.
plus you can actually go into the zone, and hang out.
Hmm.
So
Interesting.
it's kind of like a better version.
Yeah,
Like,
and to get the residency, so I'm guessing a lot of people are coming there for tax saving reasons, right? Walk us through the process a bit about like opening up a company and what does it mean tax friendly? And do you have to live there? Like, for example, in a lot of countries, you actually have to live there for a while or come back once in a while and live in the country to keep your residency. How does that work for Prospera?
yeah, so basically Prospera has two different tax systems. If you're staying in Prospera long term, so you're there for more than 90 days, then you pay 5% on your personal income, and then you pay 1% territorial tax on your company, and then there's various VAT and stuff like that. But if you don't want to spend a lot of time there, and let's say you're a remote worker,
Hmm.
you are a digital nomad, you're a perpetual traveler, you don't necessarily want to stay in a place too long because you want to like to be little bit more versatile, then essentially what I did about a year ago is that I created a like a pitch to the government of Prospera to start a new tax program exclusively for digital nomads called the Prospera Lump Sum Tax
Hmm.
um, you know, program. So basically, what we got passed down there is a flat $5,000 tax annually. Okay. And this is basically a remote residency that you can do remote. So, with any type of residency or tax residency, that's something that you would typically have to go fly to the country and get it done. What we built here at Nomad Layer is essentially you could be chilling in your villa in Bali and order a tax residency in Prospera.
Hmm. And do you have to go there in person at least once?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So you only have to visit 7 days after 12 months after you get accepted into the program.
Yeah,
So let me kind of tell you what the program entails, the benefits, and then we can kind of
please.
go through how you essentially sign up, and then we can kind of go from there.
Sure.
So, with the Prospera lump sum tax residency program, what you would do is essentially you would fill out an application to basically see if you would be eligible to be part of this regime. Okay. And then you would pay online, and you could actually pay in card. You can pay in crypto. Like with Bitcoin and stuff like that. So you make it very easy to do the tax payment. After you do that, we'll send you a link to sign up for residency in Prospera through Prospera's very own e-portal
Hmm.
system. So essentially, they have a e-portal governance system. So you sign up for residency there. You also get a Prospera company there, which again is a 1% territorial tax. So if your money derives from Prospera, you pay 1%. If your
Yeah.
money does not derive from Prospera, it's zero. Okay. Then we also give you liability insurance as well. So when you do kind of Prospera, and let's say you accidentally cause an accident or something like that, you'll be covered. Okay. We'll help you get a personal bank account. We'll also help you get a company bank account as well. And of course, what you're paying for is getting that tax residency certificate. And then we'll kind of have and all of that will be included in the $5,000 tax. So you're
Yeah.
getting that residency, the company, the insurance, all for free with
Hmm.
your tax revenue. So we want to basically serve our tax residents and actually give something back. Meanwhile, a lot of people will pay taxes to their government, and then they're not sure what they're getting back. So we provide you guys value right away. So that's important. So,
Hmm.
and then another thing that a lot of remote workers always want is a proof of address
Yeah.
as well. So we'll
Exactly.
be giving people a few options on how they can do that. I mean, and of course they can rent or buy a place in Prospera, but like we'll have like a few remote options that they can do for their proof of address. So basically, this is kind of like a one-stop shop where you can handle everything remotely. Then basically, you got 12 months to come visit for a week, easy.
For a week at least, yeah. At most within a year, or at least so to say, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the banking system, Joey? So, is it easy to what kind of banking are you giving to the customers when they register the company and themselves? You open a bank account, you said, right? Like, what kind of is it easy to transfer in and out USDs, euros? What kind of banking system is behind that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Andrew. So with any so like let's say with a jurisdiction like this, banking, we have a few, let's say, recommended partners.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll recommend banks such as Slash, also OneSafe,
Yeah.
especially if you're more on the crypto side. And there's a new bank called the Network Bank that really just opened up in the past week where they've actually integrated their system directly with the Prospera. So when you get accepted into Prospera's residency program, then essentially it will make it easier for you to get an account with the network bank. So there's a few providers that we essentially say, hey, talk to these guys. They understand what a Prospera resident is. They understand what a Prospera company is, and you know and tell them to go there because not every single bank is going to be fully aware
Mm-hmm.
of, let's say, just kind of a random special economic zone because like there's there's thousands of special economic zones all over the
That's true.
world. Like Prospera isn't necessarily unique in this, but it is very, I would say probably one of the more popular zones, especially kind of in our world.
Yeah.
Andrew, with its crypto acceptance, it's digital nomad friendly. They do like a lot of like biotech stuff there. I mean, it's right on the beach,
Yeah.
so it's a nice place to go. It's not like, let's say, like a big industrial place. It's a nice place to spend some time too.
I mean, a week a
So
year to keep low tax, I think it's a good deal. Especially if you're around the area, like if you're in the U.S. or South America for a while, you can just visit. But Joey, like, did you ever have complaints about the banking system? Like, did people have issues moving money around to pay stuff, or like getting paid for their digital services as a nomad?
no, I I wouldn't say necessarily, and we're always, well, I mean, not we, but like Prospera as a
Yeah,
government is always trying to open up more banking relationships. So, for example, if you are more of a high net worth individual, then I have a few banking like relations in the Middle East, for example. So you could be a Prospera company and set up a bank account in the Middle East with, and do some more private banking too. So we have a few options that we can kind of you know, like refer people to. So
yeah, and I think another question that's on my mind right now is it so you have to renew the tax residency every year, right?
correct. So
Right.
just like you have to pay your taxes every year in your home country, this is very, very similar.
Okay.
Now, I imagine some people who might be listening to this podcast right now say, "Well, I don't want to pay taxes," or maybe I want to go down to Paraguay or I want to move to the UAE because
Yeah.
I don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah.
What is what is important about this program compared to, let's say, the UAE or Paraguay. Not only is the convenience of, that this is a complete remote setup, right? And then you know, come for a week whenever. But Paraguay, you do have to go there and set it up. You don't have much substance, and it's like a zero tax place. And
Yeah.
in some countries like Sweden or Canada or Australia, Spain, Portugal, Mexico, technically they require you to pay taxes for certain years afterwards. And in general, with more like the more broke, especially these Western countries get, you want to pay a little tax somewhere. So a zero tax setup isn't, let's say, they're the most friendly towards, especially in Europe and Canada, for example. So it's important to, let's say, pay a little tax somewhere. So like
Mhm.
$5,000 isn't really a lot, but it's not like a little
Yeah.
either.
So
For
that's
the
about $400 a year, a month, right? If you divide by 12 months.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and I
it's
mean,
extremely decent, I would say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. For example, and also, it's very, let's say, predictable
Yeah.
as well. When you're not sure like what your tax rate's going to be or how complicated it is or anything like that.
But Joey,
Um,
there might be a drawback in the future where they say, okay, this program is over, you'll have to pay 15K a year or something like that. That's always a danger, I guess, no, because that's why we have to renew every year. Like it's not guaranteed. Things change. So, but I'm guessing this being a new program, we're not there yet, right?
well, here, let me tell you this. So with Paraguay or the UAE or any of these other government programs, also in Portugal, because I used to live in Portugal, like with the NHR
Yeah.
program, um, these programs always get worse,
Yeah,
Andrew.
exactly.
Okay. Portuguese NHR program got worse to the point where it's really like if you didn't get on board early, there's no point.
That's right.
Paraguay has been making it more difficult. The UAE introduced a 9% corporate tax, and now they're talking about taxing on an individual level too, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's say like these like 0% tax setups or very low tax setups are kind of going away. And also, these Western countries are getting more and more broke, and they're getting more and more desperate for tax revenue.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you want to make sure you're paying a little tax somewhere, right? So this is very, very important. So we get it. No one wants to pay taxes and stuff like that, and that's a whole other argument saying, "Hey, is paying tax? Like, what am I getting?"
Yeah.
Well, we're making it this, the easiest way possible, right? And we're giving you guys value right away and making it as easy and compliant where a lot of our clients so far they're actually excited about the process.
I
Like they're stuck in Belgium and they're like, oh, this can be this complicated thing, blah blah blah, all these forms, and I can just leave Belgium or I can leave Portugal, I can leave Canada and just pay this and then just travel the world and be free,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What is that worth?
Exactly, and not to mention that you can have multiple residencies. So like you can set
Sure.
up different bases, as we know, and you're probably one of your like financial bases, so to say. Can be Prospera, can be Paraguay, and so on. And talking about Paraguay, Joey, let's compare a bit the two programs, right? The tax residency program in Paraguay and tax residency in Prospera. Tell me like pros and cons, or like what's the deal between the two?
Yeah, so I would say like Paraguay right now. I don't want to say like is our biggest competitor, but
They're pretty
when
strong.
I got
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, Paraguay has been kind of the best program for digital nomads for a long time. I probably have a few hundred friends that all have that residency. But here's the difference. Paraguay residency, you actually get a residency permit that allows you to live in Paraguay. That's great. And if you do decide to live in Paraguay, it's a territorial tax system. So if you're making money in Paraguay, you do technically have to pay tax to
yeah,
Paraguay, which a lot of people get that confused. Um, so the setup with Paraguay is actually you actually have to fly all the way down to Paraguay, which is a little bit more of a trip, compared to going to Honduras, especially for North Americans and Europeans, right? So it's a little bit more difficult to get to, but it's possible,
yeah.
and a lot of people do it. They can get their tax residency done in 3 to 5 days, depending on how much you'll pay for a lawyer and stuff like that. But you're actually going into government offices and getting
Yes,
signatures and stamps and
yes.
stuff like that. So it's more of a
Old
old,
school. Yeah,
yes. And then to get your RUC, which is your tax residency certificate, you have to come back like 2 months later. You get your tax residency certificate, and you're doing all this work just to pay zero taxes.
correct.
And you don't have much substance. So you don't have a bank account there. You don't have a company there.
One thing I've
Um, you
yeah,
know,
one thing I've heard about is that the banking system is a bit complicated, let's call it, like transaction wise, and I don't know details, but I feel like banking is not great in Paraguay. So that's something which I think is important for a lot of nomads and people setting up businesses, because you want to roll money, you want to make payments, you receive payments, you want USD or pounds or crypto. That's important. I think you want to move fast, right? So you want to have access to your money, and I think in Paraguay that doesn't happen.
yeah. So I think the Paraguay residency, in my opinion, is a lot better for, let's say, high net worth individuals who are already down in South America.
Yeah.
So like very rich Brazilians, very rich Argentinians who don't want to deal with those complex tax systems. They can go to Paraguay, they can go to Uruguay, maybe they go up to Panama. So I feel like it's a really good option for them. But let's say like if you're European and Canadian and you don't want to necessarily fly all the way down to Paraguay and do all that, and like let's just talk about costs for a second.
Hmm.
The full cost of doing Paraguay is not just the multiple trips that you have to go down to Paraguay to get it done, but all the fees and all the stuff that you have to pay. So with all that being said, instead of paying all that money into fees, why don't you translate why don't you translate that cost into a tax? And then you show to your home country, I paid all this quote unquote fees in tax. So it's a different kind of mindset where it's like, well, I want to go around and I want to pay 0% tax, but I'm okay with paying all these fees. Okay,
Yeah.
right. So how about a setup where you pay where it's like basically like zero fees to set up, and a little bit of tax. You can show to your home country. So basically, if I'm spending money, what is that ROI? If I'm spending money on fees, then that money's just down the drain.
Fair enough.
But if I'm spending money and that money is basically a tax, then I can show to my home country, hey, I pay tax here, leave me alone. As long as I properly left the tax residency of my home country. So,
Hmm.
we get questions that all the time, like, "Hey, I'm Canadian, or I'm Australian, or I'm British, or I'm Swedish, etc. Can you help me leave the tax residency in my home country?" Unfortunately, we're not licensed, to do tax or legal stuff in any of those jurisdictions, so I can't necessarily help you any of that. So you need to properly leave that tax residency. And when you sign up again, when you do the application for this program in Prospera with Nomad Layer, there's actually a section where you sign and say, I'm not a tax resident anywhere else. I plan to be a tax resident in Prospera, or I plan to leave my current tax
So
residency.
okay, so you
So that's
can't have
important.
multiple residences if you are a resident of Prospera. You would have to quit all your tax residents or like the main tax resident country, and you would have to move to Prospera and have what that unique tax residency over there. Is that what you're saying?
Kind of. Let me kind of re-say that. So you can have a Paraguay residency, you can have a Mexican residency, you can have,
And I'm not
let's
talking
say, a
about
Greek.
I'm talking about the tax residency, not about the residency itself, right? I'm talking about tax residency.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So you should only have tax residency in Prospera.
Okay.
So like for some reason, so if you're still paying tax in Canada or Belgium or something like that, then this tax residency is going to do you no good, and you're just going to pay on like double taxes essentially. So
Yeah.
you need to cut all ties with your home country. So get rid of your apartment lease, sell your car, get rid of your gym membership. If your girlfriend or your boyfriend, wife, husband doesn't want to, go with you, leave them behind. You need to cut all ties, right? You got to think about this. I'm moving away from my home country or my last residency. Like I'm away. I'm a digital nomad now. Okay, because this program is only for digital nomads. So if you're spending 6 months plus, or if your center of life is in a different jurisdiction, then this program is not going to be for you.
Hmm.
That's why it's important for us to set up the residency, the bank account, the business, the insurance will help you get the proof of address, all these things to show that your center of life is here in Prospera. And I'll tell you another thing when you're a digital nomad, it could be, let's say, like a mildly lonely experience, right? So we want to tell these digital nomads, say, hey, your new home is Prospera, right? And there's an amazing community there. Like for example,
Yeah, let's
if
talk about
people
that, Joey. Let's talk about the community in Prospera. I've heard about many entrepreneurs going there, starting projects. How is it?
I think it's amazing. I mean, I was just there last week. I I meet a lot of amazing people. So, for example, I know a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, Vitalik from Ethereum was down there. Um, Tim Draper, which is this huge American
Yeah.
entrepreneur, is down there. Brian Johnson, the guy who is at war with death, like with dying, came down there. Kim Kardashian was there. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase, who invested in Prospera, was down there. So, like, the coolest thing is that the human capital in Prospera is absolutely insane because um, even for me in my business, I mean, I could just be there, just like let's say like having lunch, and then
Yeah.
just like find clients while there, find other people to do business with,
For networking
or
is
just share
fantastic.
stories.
For networking is fantastic. Small place to meet important people,
Exactly.
doers.
Yep.
Yeah. Hmm. Awesome. Interesting. Yeah, very interesting, Joey. You almost got me sold.
Almost.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah. What else
Um,
do you need?
Yeah, I'm thinking now, like what else? What's the catch? So there's no guarantee that the program won't get more expensive as we go, right? We cannot just guarantee that because it's a choice of the government and whatever they have there.
So, yeah. So let me speak on that.
Yeah,
Right now, Prospera is trying to attract people, right? And or I'm sorry, but like we as Nomad Layer, we want to keep this at a $5,000 cost, okay? And right now, we just launched this, late last year, for example, and in the past few months, we're constantly making the program better, right?
yeah.
While, like we talked about earlier, where Portugal, Paraguay, the UAE, all these countries, their tax system is getting worse. So we're always going to be doing better.
Hmm.
So, we want to essentially, well, yeah, I mean, like Prospera in general wants to be a government that serves its customers. And Nomad Layer is here to essentially always make the program better. So
Facilitate. Yeah, yeah.
there's really not an incentive for us to, like, let's say, increase the program. And when I set up this program, I wanted to essentially have it at a price point where it democratizes this. I don't want this to be a program that, let's say, only high net worth individuals or people only making $150,000 can afford. if you're making 50, 40,000 or 60,000 and you're living in Germany and you're sick of paying those high tax countries, this is something you can be able to afford and be a digital nomad. So I wanted to democratize the idea of having, let's say, like a tax insurance play and being and just getting out of a jurisdiction that doesn't serve you,
Hmm.
essentially.
Right.
So like there's not really an incentive to increase the price. We want to stay competitive here,
Yeah.
right?
Is there a limit to the program of how many people can apply per year?
No.
No. Great. So let's get more people in. That's all we need.
Let's do it.
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it. And we'll
Um,
start with you, right?
yeah, I'll definitely have a think. I'll definitely have a think. So Joey, one question I had was about Prospera being recognized by other countries, like major countries like the UK, the US. Where do we sit with that? Like, did you ever have issues with the proof of tax residency, with the company creation, invoicing other companies, so on and so forth, from Prospera Inc., so to say?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and we get that all the time. So to be very clear, to you, Andrew, and to everyone who's listening, Prospera is Honduras.
Hmm.
Okay. So the better question to ask is Honduras a sovereign country that is recognized by other countries? Because Prospera is that jurisdiction is just an extension of
Yeah,
Honduras. So it's
yeah.
not necessarily saying like, oh well, Canada recognize a Prospera company. Okay, like it is a Prospera company, but it's still like a Honduran entity
Okay.
at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, totally makes sense. So it's Honduras and any other country having relationships with Honduras. It's basically positioning that as the relationship they have. So it is what it
Yeah,
is. Like Honduras relationship around the world, basically says a lot about the status of the Prospera company, the tax residency. But did you ever have like real problems with people coming back and saying, "Hey, I've got issues with invoicing," or like deregistering from my home country and just coming to Prospera to pay tax?
as long as your home country recognizes Honduras, there should be no problem.
Hmm. Okay, so
You
which
know,
is which is the entire world, I guess, right?
right, right,
Is it part of the
right.
UN,
So
Honduras? Is it part of the UN? I think so.
it
Yeah.
is correct.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And I would say here, let me ask the question a little bit better. What's more important is asking you, Andrew, or any clients or anyone who wants to do this, are they legally deregistered from their home country? That's actually a more important question because you can't necessarily put full responsibility on, like, let's say if you enter in the tax system of any country, if it's Prospera Honduras or if it's Paraguay
Yeah.
or if it's Panama, the UAE, and you haven't properly left the tax system in your home country, and then you kind of have a tax battle, that's just going to make your situation a lot more complex. So you really need to talk to a licensed tax attorney um, in your home country and make sure that there is no risk of your home country essentially claiming you as a tax resident. So that's why we build so much substance in this product. And so that's why it's so important to cut all ties. Like it's not your home. If you're Canadian, again, get rid of your bank account. I know that's I know that's tough. Like like you've been like, hey, I've had this bank account my whole life. I haven't had any problems. If you leave Canada and get in this system, and you're still doing everything through a Canadian bank, that could cause a problem for you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it will, but talk to a licensed tax attorney in your home country and make sure there's no risk of that. So like I would say that is the most important thing, and that's when, let's say, like the ideas of like personal responsibility come in, right?
Yeah.
Because we can't necessarily, like, let's say, defend you in a way if if you have not properly deregistered from your home country, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that it does. It does. I mean, for anyone who looked into this stuff, I think they kind of understand where we're going with this one. So, you wanna make sure to take responsibility for what you're doing with the tax situation. Obviously, everyone is probably a citizen, like a tax resident of some country. So when you
Right.
decide to go to Prospera, you really have to take a call if you really want to stay there or not, or like if you want to go full in or full out. There's no way in between from what you're saying. So yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
All right, Joe. I think this is it. Thanks a lot for all the information. In terms of how do you get to Prospera? Like, do you fly to Honduras and then take a boat? How does that work?
You could take a boat. You could also just fly there. So, for example, I'm currently based in Florida. There's direct flights to the island of Roatan, where Prosper is, from Miami. There's also direct flights from Texas, I believe through Dallas. There's also direct flights, I believe, through Toronto as well. So because it's kind of like a high tourist place, especially for North Americans, it's pretty easy. So if you're coming from Europe, for example, take a direct flight to Miami, and then from Miami to Roatan was, which is probably the easiest. Or you can fly straight to mainland Honduras and then just grab on a small, like 45-minute plane, to the island. So there's tons of ways to go, but since it's kind of a huge tourist place to go, like there's enough flights,
Yeah.
for you to get there, so it's not too difficult, to be honest.
Yeah, for the folks in the US, I think it's quite easy from what you're saying. Can you tell us like which are where are your clients coming from? Most of the like top three clients, which countries they're moving from to maybe?
Yeah, so I'll say Canadian, Australia, and Europeans
Okay.
right now. We have not started to target, let's say, people in Central America or Latin America in general. I know that's going to be a huge market. Um, Outside of that, we'll see how things go.
Are there
Um,
numbers? Are there numbers? How many like tax residents are they public? Can you tell us?
yeah, so those numbers are not public yet. And in general, when people are paying taxes, they like to stay a little bit private as well.
So it's probably
So,
not going to happen anytime soon. Gotcha. Yeah.
right, right, yeah. So uh, I don't know that, but we've definitely had quite a few successful clients. Like the program has been open for less than a year now, and so with any new program, there's going to be like kind of like a ramp up period where people are like, "Is this real? Is this legit?"
Sure. As always, yeah.
Right,
Good to be true.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So anytime there is a program like this, and anytime I get questions, with clients who are like, "Oh, like is Prosper like this or that?" I always come back and say, "Hey, is Honduras a legally recognized country? Yes or
Correct.
no?"
It's just a special
So,
zone, basically. Yeah.
yeah,
That's it.
exactly,
That's it.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is interesting, definitely. I mean, we're seeing more and more zones like this popping up. I think they're trying to build something in Saudi Arabia or in the UAE somewhere. You probably know better, Joey.
Well,
There are some special zones there too. No?
well, yeah. I mean, like think of like the UAE, and like the UAE is just a bunch of economic zones.
Yeah,
I mean, like Dubai is an economic zone, Abu Dhabi is an economic zone, Prospera is an economic zone, but Dubai is not a country.
yeah,
UAE is the
yeah.
country. So
Correct.
it is the exact same concept. It's just kind of like a economic zone in a host country of Honduras, just like Dubai is an economic zone in the host country of the UAE.
Slightly
It's
different
exact same
rules.
type.
Slightly different rules inside the country, I guess. Yeah, and I think we're going to see more and more of this popping up. I mean, Prospera is one. Do you know about any others that are being built now? Should we expect something similar soon from other countries?
There are tons of different zones that I know that are coming up. Some I have to kind of keep on the down low.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I would say that interacting with these zones is like sometimes a little bit easier than dealing with the federal government.
Less
Of
bureaucracy, direct contact with.
Exactly, and that's why like these countries will open it up because a lot of countries do have economic zones. I mean, the U.S. has economic zones. There's some economic zones in Europe, really not a lot, but in Asia, there's tons of them around. In Saudi Arabia, there's quite a few. The UAE is just a bunch of economic zones. Um, so it's actually really interesting, but I think that economic zones are kind of on the rise because governments are, still trying to compete for, like, yeah, they're just trying to compete for your tax revenue, for people to invest and stuff like that. And it's just easier to do it through a special economic zone rather than on a federal level.
Yeah, gotcha. Makes sense. So the entrance is through the economic zone, and then the idea is that it's going to spread around inside the country somehow with investments as the market expands. Yeah,
Exactly.
gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah. Awesome, Joey. Thanks a lot for sharing all these details. I mean, Prospera sounds really interesting. For people who don't know what Prospera is, we're going to leave a few links. We're going to leave a link to your business, Joey, maybe with a special affiliate code if people want to start moving there and paying less tax.
Absolutely.
I think that's really an option on the table. There are others, but I think Prospera should definitely be considered. I've heard also a few people that I know moving there, so well done. And anything else you want to say in the end?
Yeah, I would say that it was an absolute pleasure to come on here. And really, what Nomad Layer is building is essentially the first remote tax residency program that is designed for the modern nomad.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Joey. See you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.